According to research, there is a developmental progression that kids go through to learn their facts and so they can become automatic. What MathRack has done to meet the goals, the needs of that progression is we've taken the original MathRack 20 and we've differentiated for our youngest mathematician by providing them with a MathRack 5. Once kids are solid with the combinations of 5 and can see this as a unit, then we can progress to the MathRack 10. Notice that we have this 5 red beads, and that's why we read the 5 red first, and it's white to right on the MathRack, white to right, and then read it here. So we've already privileged and understand that 5. We can trust that 5, and now we're adding 5 more beads. So now I can see this as a unit, 5, and count on 5, 6, 7, and then also learn the different combinations of 10. When I'm solid with that, then I can use the MathRack 20. But teachers have said to us that we have the MathRacks. We know that they're an important mathematical tool that gives built-in structure to number, but we're not quite sure how to use them. We're not comfortable with them yet. So to answer that question, that being the problem and the solution, one of the things that MathRack has done is we have created the MathRack Activity Cards. And within the MathRack Activity Cards, we have 4 very powerful activities that are sequenced and differentiated for all learning, from the very earliest mathematician to maybe like second or third grade. So when you get the cards, what I did to make it easier, since they're in 4 groups, I took each group and, like, there's 13 cards for each of the 4 activities. Quick images being probably the first one that you would do. With each category, quick image, show me, number strings, and problem solving, there is a card, a brief card for direction, but then there's something more specific. So whoever is using these, whether it's you, the teacher, to become familiar with it, or you giving it to a parent or an aide to work with a small group, they can briefly read this and say, okay, now I got it. I know what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and why I am doing it. So there's a rationale behind it. There are directions, and then there's also differentiation, how you can differentiate each card to meet the kid's needs. So for instance, if I have quick images and I'm using let's just use the 5 to begin with. And I show the kids 3, and I show it to them for like just a couple of seconds, long enough that they can see it, but short enough that they can't count by ones. And I'll cover this up, and then I'll say, how many, what did you see? And then they will show me 3, we'll confirm that it's 3, and then I'll do another quick image. This is to build that subitizing and to see things as units and get them away from counting by ones. So that's the quick images. Another activity that I can do is the show me activities, which means I can give the kids, I can show them a finger pattern, and I'll say, show me on your MathRack. Let's say they're using the 10. I've showed them 3, and then they show me 3 back. I might use a dot pattern. I won't roll a dice, but I'll show them something that has a pattern on it that they can then copy and show on the MathRack. I might say to them, show me 8. And by saying that open-ended question, I might get answers like 4 and 4, or they might just use the top row and then have 8 and 0, 2 and 6. And as you can see, all the different combinations come up and the discussion is amazing. So if I have let's just say they did 3 and 5, I can also just turn it and say, oh, well, that's the same as 5 and 3. Once they understand that commutative property, that cuts the number of problems that they need to know in half. So that is the show me activity. A third powerful activity that we would use are the number strings. And with the number strings, we know that they are purposeful and they are used to show a relationship. So for instance, if I have the math rack and I say put 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom, that might be my first thing that I show them, and they would say 4. I would add one more to it, a +1 fact, and now they have 3 and 2, and that is 5. Oh, but wait, that's the same as 2 and 3. What if I said, okay, now we did 2 and 3, how about 4 and 1? That's together, that is 5. Oh my gosh, and 1 and 4 is 5. I can't believe it. And what if I did this? I had 5 at the top and 0 at the bottom. 5 and 0 equals 5, or 0 plus 5 equals 0. So now I'm showing them the different combinations of 5. And if I was doing this with my group, then I might be writing the symbolic representation or using a number path to show it on the board. But first I'm going to use it with a math rack. Every time I use the math rack, they're seeing a structure, and I want to emphasize that they close their eyes and envision what they're seeing. I want them, if I was to show 3, I want them to think, okay, in my mind, I see 3. Because that partial envisioning and then full envisioning will lead to a mental math map in their mind, and then this will become a tool that you take away. The final activity that is in the MathRack cards are the situational problem solving, which are always most powerful, as any problem, used with the context. So in this particular ones, I think we believe we use the Double-Decker Bus by Kathy Fosno. This is awesome because I can use this MathRack 20 and pretend it's a double-decker bus. And I have, passengers on the top and passengers on the bottom. Of course, you have to remember there's 10 seats on the top and 10 on the bottom, just like the MathRack. So let's see. I can do joining, separating, part, whole, comparison. I have all of those within the activity cards that I can practice or demonstrate with the MathRack. So let's just say 4 passengers got on the top level of the bus, the upper deck, and 2 got on the lower deck. How many are sitting on the bus? And the kids will say, well, there's 6. Well, if there's 6 on the bus, how many more empty seats are there? And now you can see how I can really get into some more difficult thinking just by using the MathRack as my mathematical tool, showing the concrete representation of my problems. So you have the progression pack with the 5, the 10, and the 20, or you can buy them individually. But to support you, MathRack has also created the MathRack Activity Cards. We hope this helps because we're all about serving teachers. So you need to remember, how can we help and what can MathRack do for you?